Today we're going to talk about movement. Movement in art. Movement in art is the guiding eye and the creating energy in art. And today that's what we're going to talk about. So let's see if we can get this slideshow to work. So this is the first time I've used PowerPoint in Zoom. So we'll see how this works. So hopefully you guys are seeing my slides and we'll just go with this. So movement is one of the principles of art. There are 10 principles of art. And we've already talked about balance. So now we're on movement. So movement is one of the principles that adds life and energy. So when you think about a horse galloping across the pasture, that's movement. Now, when you capture that in art, you make the background blurred and you make the horse like suspended, but you add like little lines across. That's movement in art. So and it adds flow to a composition. It helps direct the viewer's eyes through the artwork, and it can guide them from one area to another, and it can create a sense of action or progression. And a movement doesn't just happen. It is carefully designed using the elements of art, like what I just said, with lines, which is an element of art, to make the viewer feel like they're part of the scene. So you have lines and paths. Lines naturally lead the eye along the direction, creating a sense of motion, just like I said with the horse going across. You have curved lines, like at the tail of a cat as it curves up and around. Your eye follows that tail up and around. And the arch of a cat's back, you follow the tail, you follow the back. It creates diagonal lines, will create energy and tension. So see how the cat's back here is going, swooping up. Your eye starts at the feet and it goes all the way up and out of the plane. And then on this one, see how the artist drew the little dotted lines all the way around this path. So your eye naturally just follows those lines. So what is movement in art? Movement is the path the viewer's eyes naturally follow as it explores the art. Movement can tell a story by leading the eyes through different areas of focus. It can create energy and excitement by suggesting movement or action. Think about a cartoon or your cartoonists where they did pow, wow, and you had the lines, the diagonal lines, like for Batman and stuff like that. When you were a kid and you saw the images where they did that. That tells a story and it creates energy and excitement. And you can add depth and a sense of flow that prevents the painting from feeling static or flat. So think of it like a visual roadmap that guides your audience on a journey through your art. So there's different types of movement in art. You can have actual that depicts real movement, real motion, or you can have implied, where it's suggestion of motion without actually showing it. So let's look at different ways to create movement. So you can see this horse here that's jumping over the fence, and you can see how the background's all blurry. That's one way of suggesting movement. You kind of blur out the edges of the image that you're drawing or painting, and you blur out the background so that it looks like everything's in motion. Or you can imply that the motion is going to happen, like just Yeah, this famous painter, which I didn't actually, looks like I missed his date. It's like 18 something. Whoops. And I just moved my painting forward. Julia's Cossack, the Amazon woman. This horse is just about ready to take a step forward. So that's an implied movement because it's a suspended operation there. So, and then you have repetition and rhythm. So repeating shapes, colors, or patterns can create rhythm and visual flow. So you have, for example, with this Marion Yvonne Lahr painting, you have little motion waves where the cat is lapping the milk. By the way, don't give your cat milk. It's very, very bad for the cat. I cannot believe that she painted this, but that's okay. I digress. Anyways, the repeated curve of waves or fur lines on a pet's tail can create a sense of continuous movement. You have action and motion. So you can show action as if something is happening or about to happen. So you have a cat that's getting ready to mid-swipe, like slap at a toy, like this one here is doing. Or you have the mane and the tail that are blowing in the wind with Thomas Woodard's 1801 to 1852 with his horses in a thunderstorm painting. You also have implied movement. Without showing physical motion, you can hint at it with positioning, shapes, or environmental effects. You can have leaves swirling around your pet, or a dog gazing off to one side, drawing the viewer's attention into that direction. And I thought, why did that not switch? I have an example of that right here with George Stubbs, 1724 to 1806. He painted this dog, this foxhound, in 1760, where the dog is looking out. So you have an implied motion because the point of sight goes out. So how elements of art influence movement? You have your elements of art: line, color, shape, value, texture, and placement. Curved or diagonal lines add flow or direction. So which is why I explained where you have that one painting or that one drawing that person did where they had the curved dotted lines. And you have straight lines feel rigid, whereas wavy lines create rhythm. You have color. Contrast and repetition of color can guide the eye. You have bright colors that can attract attention and create focal points. You have shapes. Repeating the different shapes create patterns that naturally lead the eye. You have complex shapes that can feel more energetic than simple ones. You have value. Light to dark transitions create pathways. A darker shape can anchor attention, while lighter areas can guide the eye outward. You have textured areas that feel more dynamic than smooth areas by adding movement and visual interest. And by adding where you place your objects, how you arrange them. You can arrange them diagonally, or you can arrange them in clusters, can add implied motion. While you center the objects, they can feel more static. So for example, you can have curved fur lines that guide the viewer's eyes along the flow. Like for the cat where the back is going up. Excuse me. You have repeated colors. So you can use repeated colors, like you have a burnt sienna in your pet's coat. You can bring that color into your background to create rhythm and flow and cohesion between your foreground and your background. You have dynamic compositions where you can place elements like a paw that's in mid-step or mid-swipe, or a fur caught in motion to suggest an energy. And you can have clear paths, so you can not have anything in the way, which can make compositions uncluttered so that your viewer can easily follow the visual cues that you're leaving. So why is movement so important? Movement keeps the viewers engaged so that they can follow through your painting. And you can keep them just looking and kind of diving into your painting. The longer they look at your painting, the more interested they'll be. So make them feel alive. Make your scenes feel alive and expressive. Whether it's a flicking of a tail, a gust of wind, or a swirling of leaves, breathe life into your art. Make the viewer think there's a story. Make them think that they can find a story. Movement is more than its action. It's about guiding the eye and creating a flow. So the next time you paint, think about how you can use your lines with your paints, how you can use your shapes and your patterns to create visual pathways that will make your art feel alive. Experiment with movement in your paint portrait or in your pet portraits, and try to incorporate curves, repetition, or implied motion to see how it transforms your work. I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching.